home, or this is the tankless gas heater that is available locally, and you can look at alternative energy sources, utilize solar energy for water heating, water heater retrofit, emergency lighting circuits, electricity for lighting, and low loads. Okay? I would like to pause now, and I say pause because my presentation is incomplete, but I've deliberately spent time to highlight these possibilities to you. Later on, you'll get further information on some of these possibilities that have been applied here, and I'll return to wrap up on this presentation. Okay, so thank you very much for hearing me, and there's more to come. I'd like to present Martha. She's my partner, as I had mentioned. She is mainly dealing with the environmental aspect of things, and we've been working well together for about a year.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, thank you very much for your welcome here in Jamaica. It's my first time in Jamaica, second time in the Caribbean. So I will focus on the environmental component of this project, and I hope I will be able to share some of my knowledge and experience with you. You will observe that the length of the presentation is a function of the age of the presenter, so I will be... It will be shorter, but if you have any questions during, any questions, yeah, that you have during my presentation, just take notes and don't. Please feel free just to ask them later on. All right, so this first presentation will be quite general. I will present main driving forces of environmental management system. So what can be the motivations of facilities to implement environmental management system? And also I will present the environmental management system in itself, say a few words, because I'm sure you heard about it already, but maybe some clarifications. So I will start with a very brief introduction of the business and the interaction between business and the environment. Then a few words about the environmental management system, just to understand and be sure that we are talking about the same thing. A few words later on about ISO 14001, which is the main standard for environmental management system. And then I will talk about the main driving forces, so motivations for to implement environmental management system in your facilities. And to just at the end some case studies, lessons learned from facilities that implemented already management systems. All right, so all human activities have impact on the environment, and some of them can impact the environment in a positive way, but unfortunately most of them have adverse impacts on the environment. So what are those? First of all, it's about the use of natural resources, so water, energy, raw materials. Then you have pollution that can be generated by the activity. So all this makes that there is a need to identify, assess, and manage the environmental footprint of the enterprise. So how to manage your environmental impacts? First of all, you have to identify your activities. You have to be sure what do you do in your facility. I mean, all technological processes and so on. The next step is to identify the impacts. So to check how your activities influence the environment. Next step, logical step, would be to find the ways for improvement. It means, well, what can we do better? How we can manage, how we can consume water in more efficient way, or things like that. Then, based on the improvements that you identify, you can set up some objectives and targets, which will be your environmental management program. So, objectives, targets, activities, resources, deadline, of course, to implement actions. Next step is to monitor. Once you have your program, once you start implementing it, you should monitor it. And you should, it's quite logical. You should check, okay, does it work or not? Should we improve something or not? And so the last step is that you get the feedback from your system. And okay, what can we do better or in a different way? Maybe some of our activities were not really relevant, or some of them can be improved, or we just, choose not the right target, or just an example. So the environmental management system is a response to how to manage your environmental footprint. So the purpose: manage your impact, control and manage the impact of your activity, company, firm on the environment. It is a voluntary approach, which is quite important because you are not. It's not a legal obligation or other obligation. You just decide that you want to do something about the environment or not. You can implement it internally. I mean, you don't need external consultancy to start thinking about the environmental concerns of your facility. You just can, identify people, motivated people, and you can start thinking. You can start with very simple things, just focusing on one aspect, and then step by step add other aspects or improve your system and make it bigger. And what is very important is that the environmental management system is an ongoing process. So in this part of the slide, you can see that you have a phase of planning. First of all, policy making. So you decide, okay, we want to do something about the environment. The top management is okay. You have to have this strong political commitment. Then you plan. Then you implement, measure, and at the end you review and you think how you can improve your system. So all is about, making it turn around, I would say, Plan, do, check, act is really the approach that should be implemented to each environmental management system. Actually, sometimes it's presented like, two people pushing the system over the hill. So, you can see that they are higher and higher because their system gets improved, step by step. So few words now about the ISO 40001. I'm sure all of you, or a part of you, heard already about the ISO 14001. So this is a standard. This is an international standard prepared by the International Organization for Standardization, I think. I'm not sure about that. So this is a standard. This is a norm. So it defines. It gives you some definitions, some requirements, and some principal steps that should be implemented when you want to set up an environmental management system in your facility. It's not an exhaustive guideline, which means that it will not tell you how to create the system. It will not give you any tips or advice on how you should deal with your environmental aspects or things like that. But it gives a framework. It gives a framework. At the aim, the final aim of implementing environmental management system compliant with ISO is the certification. So if you comply with all requirements of ISO, you get a certificate and you can tell to all your partners